20th, 1870, a group of Southern promoters, entrepreneurs, and speculators met and formed the Ealaton Land Company in the hopes of creating an industrial city in the heart of Jefferson County. Almost exactly 1 year later, the foundations of the city they had built formally were incorporated as the city of Birmingham. Even the most hopeful of Birmingham's early promoters could scarcely predict the rate of growth and success their new city would enjoy over the generations to come. The key to the city's growth relied solely on the mineral-rich lands in an area of Jefferson County called Jones Valley. This area had all three ingredients needed to make iron ore, limestone, and coal, and in close enough proximity to be able to compete with iron furnaces of the North and Midwest. These three ingredients formed the foundation on which Birmingham was built. Eager to take advantage of the industrial potential Birmingham offered, thousands poured into the young city, seeking better economic opportunities than what the rural areas of the South could provide. Henry de Bardeleben began construction on the first successful iron furnaces in Birmingham's history in 1879, naming them the Alice furnaces after his daughter. Finished construction in 1880, the first Alice furnace went into operation as Alabama's largest furnace to date, and the first in the state to be built solely to use coke, a pure carbon-based fuel made out of coal. At the same time de Bardeleben was building his second furnace at that site, James Withers Sloss began building the Sloss furnaces on the other side of town. James Withers Sloss was born in Mooresville, Alabama, and quickly became a prominent Alabama merchant and railroad man. He made his fortune building railroads throughout the South and was instrumental in bringing the Louisville and Nashville Railroad through Jones Valley, making Birmingham possible. He began constructing his first furnace in 1881, making the Sloss Furnace Company the second successful furnace company in Birmingham's history. Because of the success of both the Alice furnaces and the Sloss furnaces, Birmingham enjoyed a boom of industrial activity in the 1880s. By 1890, 28 furnaces were operating around the city district. Birmingham's population grew almost 750%. Alabama's pig iron production grew 1,085%. And Alabama became the fourth highest iron-producing state in the country. Almost half of Birmingham's new population were African Americans from the rural areas of the South, primarily the Black Belt region of Alabama. Many sought better opportunities than what agriculture, and especially the often oppressive sharecropping system, could offer. Industry could provide a steady income and educational opportunities rarely found in the rural areas of the South. African Americans were not the only ones moving to Birmingham. By 1890, almost 15% of Birmingham's population were immigrants. They came mainly from Germany, Italy, and Britain, but also from Greece, Russia, and Lebanon. While many found work at the industrial sites of Birmingham, others became grocers and merchants. They brought their cultures with them as well, starting churches and restaurants, and continuing music and language traditions within their communities. The influence of the immigrant populations seeking a better life in Birmingham is still felt today in the architecture, food, and cultural traditions Birmingham has to offer. While industry provided a better opportunity for African Americans than in much of the South, better did not mean equal. Black workers had to deal with segregation practices in both the city and at the furnaces. However, because 70 to 80% of Birmingham industrial workers were African American, sites like Sloss furnaces could not truly segregate. They built separate bathhouses, areas to punch in and out of work, and held segregated company picnics. But while working on site, they worked beside each other. Many considered iron and steel to be the least segregated job in the South because of this reason. Companies like Sloss Furnaces still found ways to keep a cheap workforce based on African American labor. While men worked beside each other, some jobs were reserved for black workers, while others for white, with no crossover. This meant that African Americans were given the hardest, lowest paying jobs, while all the managerial positions went to whites. There were opportunities for black workers to progress to the higher paying, skilled positions, though. Many would start as laborers and work their way up to better paying positions. This opportunity for advancement, while still not equal to their white counterparts, is one of the reasons so many sought jobs in the iron and steel industry. As the iron and steel industry began to rapidly grow in the 1880s, so did Birmingham's population. Between 1880 and 1890, the population grew from around 3,000 to around 26,000 people, and continued to grow to around 38,000 in 1900 and 133,000 in 1910. Companies like Sloss Furnaces decided to fill the housing void by constructing housing communities adjacent to their sites. These communities provided low-rent homes with amenities such as company stores, doctor's offices, spaces for gardens, churches, and schools. Housing served two purposes. It attracted family men, lowering the rate of absenteeism, and it provided the companies with easily accessible labor in case of emergencies. Although company housing was an improvement over dilapidated rural dwellings, life for Birmingham's black iron and steel workers and their families were far from ideal. Pollution from the furnaces created a very different environment than the open air of rural communities. At one point, industrial companies paid their workers with scrip, or clacker, which could only be used at the company store. This made the workers dependent on the company for everything from groceries to household items. Despite the drawbacks, industrial housing communities provided a relatively cohesive environment for their primarily black tenants. Social events which brought the communities together were common, and the schools provided the children of the communities access to education. In the Sloss quarters, the housing community at Sloss, women in particular played an important role in creating this cohesive environment. They planted gardens, raised chickens, and did everything in their power to recreate the sense of place they felt in their old rural communities. Even though Sloss furnaces shut down in 1971, the importance of the iron and steel industry to Birmingham and the stories of the men who worked the site and sites like it all over the Birmingham area are still prevalent today. Sloss Furnace's National Historic Landmark stands as a testament to the character and spirit of the South's industrial heritage and the men who made it possible. However, it was not always planned to do so. In the late part of the 1970s, the site was scheduled for demolition. Concerned citizens started a movement and succeeded in saving Sloss in 1977 by approving the money to restore and preserve the site as an industrial museum. One former worker summed it up best when he said, "A lot more than iron poured from those furnaces. Our whole culture did, our whole way of life." On the 150th anniversary of Birmingham's founding, it is important to reflect on the city's humble beginnings, the industrial heritage that served as a foundation for the city's birth, and the industrial workers who served as the backbone to the Magic City.
Slave for my woman, almost gone so blind. I leave in the morning, my clock strikes 6. Your kids been waiting to get his business fixed, 'cause I'm a poor cold loader way down in the mine. Slave for my woman, almost gone so blind.